Brother, get a load of this. Some analysts are saying we're gonna hate the TJ Watt contract. You heard that right. Meanwhile, Darnell Washington says he can switch to offensive tackle if he has to. Can you believe that? And it doesn't stop there. A big-name free agent is floating around for the O-line, and Omar Khan's phone is ringing in Washington about a certain star wide receiver. So much is happening all at once, man. The burning question is, are the Steelers building a super team, or are they getting lost in the win-now frenzy? Well, my fellow Steelers fan, before we dive into the latest Steelers news, just a quick ask. If you dig this kind of breakdown, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow and keeps this passionate Steelers community going strong. We're in this together. Look, if there's one thing that gets under my skin, it's outsiders trying to tell Steel City how to run things. They're out here saying the TJ Watt contract is going to become a nightmare for Pittsburgh. Brad Gagnon from Bleacher Report dropped this bomb, that we'll despise Watt's contract when the Rodgers cycle is over. According to him, Watt has already gone over 6,000 snaps, had 2 recent seasons with fewer than 12 sacks, and even declined in 2024 despite playing a full season. But I gotta ask, did this guy actually watch the games? Because TJ was still an All-Pro, was among the league leaders in forced fumbles, had 11.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, and played all 17 games, dude. He's not just a stat sheet, he's the heart and soul of this defense. Sure, the contract is massive, $42 million guaranteed in 2026 and 2027, eating up more than 13% of the cap. But seriously? Were we just gonna let the guy walk? Franchise tag him? Create locker room friction just as we're going all in on this win-now era with Rodgers? It makes no sense. The Steelers held on to their best player, simple as that. Gagnon's argument is the classic analyst take. They look at spreadsheets but don't understand the culture, the history, or the weight of the terrible towel waving at Heinz Field. He's talking about 2027 like the team will be broke and in a full rebuild. But who guarantees that? What if Watt still has gas in the tank? He's only 30. With his history of dedication, physical preparation, and effort, I have no doubt he'll keep producing at a high level. And I'll take it a step further. Even if he declines, his symbolic value and leadership are worth that contract. Just look at what the Rams paid Donald until the end, even with a dip in production. That's the Rooney standard, man. Now sure, if it goes south, the team can still cut him in 2028 with a $36 million cap relief. But what if it doesn't? What if the guy continues to be the wall he's always been? That's a bet worth making. Do you agree with me, or do you think Gagnon has a point? Comment below. I really want to hear what you think. And hold on tight because there's more heat coming. Because a huge potential change is being considered for the Steelers' offense, and no one saw this coming. Dude, this one is one of those you have to read twice to believe. Darnell Washington, our massive 6'7", 260-pound tight end, said he'd be willing to become an offensive tackle if the team needed him. That's right. He was asked in an interview if he could make that transition, and he said it point blank. If they asked me one day, I would do it with confidence. I feel like I could. And you know what? I think he can too. The dude is a war tank with the mobility of a slot receiver. He came into the league as one of the best blockers in his class, and in his first 2 years in the NFL, even with limited targets, he showed progress in his blocking grades. According to Pro Football Focus, he had a pass block grade over 70 last season and greatly improved his run block, going from 51 to almost 69. That's a big deal, especially playing against the tough defenses of the AFC North. Now hold on, no one is saying he's going to become a full-time tackle. That's not it. Especially since Arthur Smith, our new offensive coordinator, loves to use tight ends in multiple sets with motion, blocking, short routes, all of it. Washington is still an important piece as a tight end. But think about this. In a tight game, a banged-up line, pressure coming from all sides, imagine being able to slide the guy into an emergency role on the edge? That would be golden. Especially now with the offensive line being overhauled, without James Daniels, and with a lot of uncertainty in the rotation. Having a utility guy like Washington ready to step up if needed is a luxury. And let's be honest, it also shows the spirit of the team. A young guy, still developing, talking with that kind of commitment, that kind of team-first mindset. That's Pittsburgh passion, man. And listen up. If Arthur Smith decides to get bold with heavy protection packages, Washington could become a bulldozer opening lanes for the run game or holding the pocket so Rodgers can breathe. So what do you think? Are you digging this do whatever the team needs mentality? Or do you think he should just focus on his own position? Send your thoughts in the comments, because this says a lot about the DNA of this roster. Now hold on tight, because the next name on the Steelers' radar could be the missing piece to truly protect this offense, and he's a free agent just waiting for the call. Man, there's a name floating around behind the scenes that could be the smartest move the Steelers make all offseason. And no, it's not some flashy star, but rather guard Dalton Risner. Yes, him, the veteran who held things down in Minnesota and who's still unsigned. And look, this guy would be a gift for an offensive line that's still trying to find its footing. Let's get real. After James Daniels left, there's a hole on the right side of the O-line. Do we have promising names? Yes, Broderick Jones, Isaac Sumalo, Mason Cole, even Brooker as a wild card. But let's be honest, you can't play around with the protection of a 40-year-old quarterback, right? And that's where Risner comes in. The guy has experience, discipline, and a clean blocking technique that is exactly what Pat Meyer, our OL coach, values. He can play on both the left and right sides, which gives Smith absurd flexibility to design protection and play-action packages. On top of that, Risner has always had a leadership profile, a high work ethic, a guy who buys into the system. And at this stage for the Steelers, where everything revolves around giving Rodgers the peace of mind to run the offense, there's no room for a disorganized or insecure O-line. The best part? He'd be a perfect fit financially. Contract estimates are around $3 to $4 million for 1 year, with performance bonuses. And we still have about $11 million in cap space. In other words, we can sign the guy without sacrificing our long-term plan. And I'll tell you, he'd come in and take that right guard spot right away. He stabilizes the line, raises competition in practice, and even helps develop the younger guys. All this without compromising anything structurally with the roster. And that, my friend, is pure Rooney standard, reinforcing intelligently, without a fuss, but with impact. Of course, nothing is official yet. But the conversation is happening, his name is back on the table, and the coaching staff knows they can't leave Rodgers exposed, especially in a conference where the pounding on the line is heavy. So, true fan, tell me, would you bring in Risner now, or would you wait to see what the young guys deliver in training camp? Because time is ticking, and it's getting to be time to finalize this roster. And speaking of finalizing, there's an elite offensive target who made Omar Khan pick up the phone, and his name is huge. Brother, hold on tight because now things just got real. Omar Khan picked up the phone and called the Commanders to ask about Terry McLaurin. That's right, the star wide receiver asked to leave Washington, and guess who's sniffing an opportunity? The Steelers. The information came directly from Chris Halicki of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and he confirmed it. The team showed real interest, but the chances are still small because of the heavy package that McLaurin demands. And let's be real, the guy wants WR1 money, probably more than the contract we gave Metcalf. On top of that, we'd have to give up a high draft pick to convince the guys in DC. In other words, it's a huge move. But you know what this tells me? That the front office isn't satisfied with the current receiving core. The truth is that Metcalf is the alpha, but Calvin Austin is still an unknown as a WR2, and no one else has stood out in practice. The offense has been getting beaten by the defense in camp, which is a good sign for the defense, but it also exposes the offense. And if we're going all in this year, the way they're saying, then why not reinforce more? And if it's not McLaurin, it could be another name. They already scouted Gabe Davis and even asked the Saints about Chris Olave. This shows that the radar is on, and the front office is looking for someone to give this wide receiver group some punch. And I'm going to be straight up here, as a true fan. We're tired of seeing a lukewarm offense in Pittsburgh, right? If we're going to put Aaron Rodgers in this locker room, then we have to give him elite weapons to use. We can't be content with rotation players that might work. The window is open now. Not in 2027, and if we have the cap, if we have the picks, if we have the opportunity, then let's go for it. Sure, there's a risk, there's money involved, but do you trust Omar Khan or not? The guy has shown vision so far, and let's be real, seeing Metcalf on one side and McLaurin on the other with Rodgers throwing, Oh, my friend, that would be a thing of beauty. So, would you make this trade, or would you leave it alone and invest in another position? Let me know in the comments, because now it's time to tie everything together and say it loud and clear. What's at stake this year is much bigger than a regular season. Brother, stop and think about what we talked about today. On one hand, people are doubting Watt's contract, our defensive pillar. On the other, we have a tight end becoming a tackle, a line that needs reinforcement, and a front office scouting a star to finalize the offense. This isn't a rebuild, this is all or nothing. The Steelers are pushing all their chips to the middle for the now. And you? Do you still believe in this steel curtain? If this breakdown reminded you why you still believe in that Steel City soul, hit the like button and comment, can we still dream in Pittsburgh?